like to call this meeting to order. The moment of silence and pledge will be led by Mr. Norman.
Okay, all those that are able to stand, please salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. Thank you all for being here. As public noticed, board members met this afternoon in executive session at 4:30 p.m. in room 549. Mr. Dupler, would you mind just sharing the purpose of that meeting, please? For the benefit of the public.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. The board has an executive session, usually a quarterly meeting. It is only for board members and the law department. It is also an exception to the open meetings rule, and it's under Smith County Education Association versus Anderson, a Supreme Court case. And it's not a chance for board members to deliberate, so no issues were discussed by board members. It's only an opportunity for the law department to discuss pending litigation with the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dupler. Are there any elected officials? I don't see anyone. Okay. We do have a couple of students here from UT, so thanks, guys, for being here. Welcome. Just a reminder that all of our Knox County schools will be closed next week, October 7th through the 11th for fall break, with central office closed on Thursday, October 10th, and Friday, October 11th. Also, because of fall break, our regular session meeting, which normally falls on the second Wednesday of the month, will be held on Wednesday, October 16th, here in the main assembly room at 5 p.m. Are there requested changes to this work session meeting agenda? Okay, do we have a move?
So moved.
Thank you. Mr. Norman made a motion to approve the agenda. Do we have a second? Second. Okay, Ms. Owen, thank you. And now I would like to refer to Mr. Thomas for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. A few brief updates since we've met last. I'd like to thank the students, families, and KCS employees who worked so hard to make the 2019 coupon campaign a great success. As you know, Coupon Book is one of our district's biggest fundraisers. I was very pleased that this year, $9 from every coupon book sale went to the school of the student who sold it. I know that many schools will be celebrating their success in the next couple of weeks, and I'm looking forward to all the creative ways that our staff and teachers mark the occasion. One of the best parts about being superintendent is the opportunity to highlight the achievements of our schools and our employees, and there are two I'd like to mention this evening. Last month, Sequoia Elementary School was designated as a 2019 National Blue Ribbon School by the U.S. Department of Education, one of only 6 schools in Tennessee to be honored this year. The Blue Ribbon program is a symbol of exemplary teaching and learning, and I'd like to congratulate Sequoia Principal Alicia Hinton and her team for this great honor. In addition, Powell High School Principal Chad Smith was honored last night at the NASSP Principals Institute in Washington, D.C. as the 2019 Principal of the Year for the state of Tennessee. This award recognizes administrators who provide high-quality learning opportunities for students, and I'd like to congratulate Dr. Smith and the entire Powell High School community for this well-deserved recognition. Finally, as Ms. Horn stated, schools will be closed next week for fall break. It's been busy, but a productive semester so far. I hope that this week gives our employees, gives everyone a chance to relax and come back with renewed energy for the fall. And hopefully our students will also get a chance to spend some time reading, so I can't let this opportunity go by without emphasizing want our students to be reading over the fall break holiday. And Madam Chair, this concludes my report, and the next item on there is our Teacher Advisory Council, so if I may,
sure.
Okay, I'll just proceed. Madam Chair, members of the board, I'd like to now introduce members of this school year's Teacher Advisory Council. This council was formed several years ago to provide the superintendent with teacher insights, suggestions, and perspectives on educational issues. Members are selected by committee and may serve up to 3 years. We have 5 new members this year, and I'd like to welcome Chief of Staff Renee Kelly to announce the members. And Mrs. Horn, if you would join me, we'll welcome our members. And we've already had our first meeting, very good meeting here just recently. So thank you for being here. And at this time, Renee, I'll turn it over to you.
No, I was using my teacher voice, so I couldn't tell. Can you, no? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? All right, it's my honor to introduce the members of our Teacher Advisory Council for school year 2019-2020. We have with us, when I call your name, please come up so you can shake Superintendent Thomas's hand and Chairwoman, is that the right term? Chairperson. So first my mic doesn't work and then I use the wrong term. Susan Horn's hand. All right, Tanya, I'm gonna have you model. So serving in her 3rd year on the council, we have Tanya Coates. She is our KCEA president. And Tanya has 25 years of experience in education. We also have serving in her 3rd year, Dr. Michelle Keaton from the Paul Kelly Academy. And Dr. Keaton has 18 years in education and teaches business. Amy Cox? No? Okay. The following individuals are serving in their 3rd year, but they weren't able to join us this evening. We have Amy Cox, who teaches at Halls Elementary, and she has 21 years of experience. We have Megan Christian from Bearden High School, who's a band teacher. We have Natalie Dowling from Carter High School, who teaches English. We have Tiffany Holmes from Lonsdale, who is a 2nd grade teacher. And we have Allie Omberger from Sunnyview Primary, who's a kindergarten teacher. Now, serving in their 2nd year on the council, we have August Askins from Holston Middle School. She's a science teacher with 15 years experience. We have Rachel Evans from South Door Middle School, who's an administrative assistant with 10 years experience. And we have Stephanie Lewis from Gap Creek Elementary, who's a 3rd grade teacher with 11 years of experience in education. Also serving in their 2nd year, but again, unable to join us due to other commitments, Lucas Irwin from South Door Middle School, who's a TPAC coach, Whitney Parson from Farragut High School, who teaches AP Chemistry, Stephanie Reese from West High School, who teaches English, College Prep, and Honors IB. We have Lynn Shurian from Norwood Elementary, who is a behavior interventionist, and Laurie Smith from Cedar Bluff Elementary School, who teaches kindergarten. And now new to the council this year, we have Alicia Basner from West Hills Elementary School, who is a school counselor with 7 years experience. We have Sherry Fishbach from West Valley Middle School, who has 20+ years of experience, and she's a 6th grade science teacher. We have Anthony Hancock from Bearden Middle School, who's a special education teacher with 18 years of experience. We have Michelle Stahl from Northwest, and Michelle is an instructional coach with 18 years of experience. And last but certainly not least, new this year, is Dave Brooks from Adrian Burnett, who's a technology teacher with 9 years of experience, and Douglas James from Austin East High School, who teaches theater, and he has 10 years of experience. So please join me and Superintendent Thomas and Chairperson Susan Horn in recognizing and celebrating our Teacher Advisory Council.
That's what I was thinking the same thing.
Thank you all so much for being here this afternoon. We appreciate that. Okay. Board members, just a reminder that you received an email yesterday explaining that Beaumont Magnet Academy has been notified of a Knoxville TVA Employees Credit Union $500 grant, and due to the timing, Superintendent Thomas and I agreed to the addition of this item to our October 16th agenda, and that will be item 10F, and you should have those supporting documents. And now we will go through the agenda. Do we have questions on contracts 1 and 2? Okay, 3 and 4. Ms. Babb?
Yes, could someone just talk a little bit about this? Is it just a contract to basically work together on this? And I'm just wondering who from Knox County Schools is representing us?
On number 3?
Yes. Oh,
3.
sorry, number 3.
On SHOCAP,
Mr. Oakes?
it is an agreement just to work together. It's basically the same agreement that's been in place for the last 20 years as we've worked with our law enforcement partners for serious habitual offenders. And I think, and Mr. Dupler can probably expound upon this more than I can, I think from our perspective, the only change in it has been an addition of a line about ensuring that we protect FERPA-related information.
Mr. Duplo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Babb, that's absolutely correct, Mr. Oakes. There was just that short line added. Not that confidentiality has not been protected in the past, but we just wanted to add that line in there just to make sure. That was it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Norman?
And I guess just to follow, and Mr. Oakes, does this fall under your, who represents Knox County Schools on this agreement? Is there a particular department this falls under?
There are a couple of departments that are involved in this. There's C&I representation, and then Chief Paducas represents us as well.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Mr. Norman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I saw in the attachment, I believe, Russ, that there was some mention of a transition school.
Yes, sir.
What is that?
I'll have to defer to C&I on that one.
Thank you. So we do have that. If we have Mr. Myers and Ms. Cook can answer probably more in detail, but basically if a student has had issues and maybe has been arrested or maybe is serving some time in a different educational state institution or county, then we bring them back through and don't bring them straight back to their school. Lots of times we'll do that through a transition program at Richard Yoakley, our alternative high school, for a time period to acclimate them back in and before we move them back to their base school.
So does Richard Yoakley serve as our transition school?
So I want to confirm that it does, yes.
Okay. My other question related to this is, are teachers, or do teachers have access to information about serious habitual offenders, i.e., I experienced in a school that I taught a person who had committed second-degree murder in Kentucky and was transferred into Knox County, and I suddenly became aware of it one day in my class, that he was quite an unusual student. That is, I had no warning, no idea who this person was until he very ostentatiously revealed himself. So I'm just curious about access to information for teachers, that is, are teachers experiencing some kind of protective layer in case we have a serious habitual offender?
For those that would be enrolled, we should make that information available to the teachers. Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen. Yeah. And if there is a need or a specific threat that needs to be addressed, then we can put measures in place to address those particular students. You know, what you describe is probably a worst case scenario for individuals who might be in this program.
Okay, that's, and the point being, protecting everybody in the classroom, not just the teacher, but
yes,
certainly an awareness of that, some kind of condition like that would certainly be helpful.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, number 4 or 5. Ms. Christie?
Yeah, I just have a question about number 5, the agreement with Carson Newman. I guess I was under the impression that we would be doing this all in-house, and I'm a little curious as to this contract and how it
Okay.
came to be.
Mr. Russell, would you like to comment on that, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair,
Thank you.
Board,
Thanks
Superintendent.
for being here.
This is really just allows us to continue to move forward with things that we have been able to do through that the Leadership Academy allowed. And let me just give you a couple of examples. Number one, we need to be able to allow our administrators to progress from beginning administrator's license to the professional administrator's license. And so that is, it takes an EPP to do that, and working with our new administrators program, which is in-house, but they will work with them to help manage that part, to allow them to move within 3 years from the beginning administrator's license to the professional administrator's license. And then another thing that this will allow us to do as we create this Aspiring Leaders program, one of the things that the Leadership Academy did, and one big difference, the Leadership Academy was the University of Tennessee's state-approved licensure program. So what we're doing, we have built a leadership development program. We will have people who do not have a license as an administrator who have shown great administrative skill, and out of the conversation from the board, as that was discussed, moving away from the Leadership Academy, one of the things that came out, I believe that we talked about, was that the need to have the ability to still have people receive that aspiring license program, which means that someone who has a bachelor's degree, who has taught at least 3 years or more, professionally licensed, we have identified them as somebody who has really great leadership skill. We can bring them into this program. They will still have to apply to Carson Newman. That aspect will be separate. What we have set up in this is that 4 classes will be free because they have agreed to accept the courses that we will do that summer on finance, on curriculum. Much of the coursework that we're doing is focused on the 3 goals that you all have set, and they have agreed to accept those courses. We will involve one of their professors along with a practitioner from Knox County. So this just allows us to help these folks pursue a license. And when you break down the cost, with the 4 free courses and then the 20% off, that works out tuition-wise. It's about $7,000 that person will pay. Leadership Academy, of course, was free. I mean, it was totally scholarshiped. But if any other situation, if you're going through just another program, it's going to be about $15,000. So truthfully, we were looking for a way to help defray some of those costs, and we approached Carson Newman with that request, and they stepped up with this offer.
Okay, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, and this isn't really about Carson Newman. It just kind of surprised me to see this on here because there hadn't been any discussion about having that contract with the outside agency, and with so much questions about transparency and everything with the Leadership Academy. You know, I just felt like maybe we should have seen this before now.
Okay. Ms. Babb?
A little bit along the same lines, and maybe this is a topic for a workshop. I guess with all the discussion of getting rid of the way we did at UT and coming here, I don't feel like we really know or I personally don't know what's really going on. So I do think it would be nice to get a little bit educated on what our plan is going forward and that type of thing, because that was my big thing. I was just real surprised about this because I didn't know what was going on. And I guess my question is, you know, we moved away from UT. We're now going to Carson Newman. Is Carson Newman the only place we approached about doing this? I mean, because I know LMU does educational stuff, UT does. What was the process on deciding on Carson Newman to be the partner in this?
Thank you.
We did. We approached Carson Newman with Carson Newman saying we'd like to do a primary partnership with you. So it's to Knox County's advantage to have multiple partnerships. So this one, it does not just limit us to Knox County Schools in terms of people coming into administration. The other pathways are still there. This simply expands it, and the big thing is, again, it allows us to do those two things that I mentioned, to seek the aspiring license, and we've got to have a a higher ed institution to do that, and then we also need a higher ed institution to work with our professional development plans developed for those new administrators that move in, not just out of our leadership, but anyone coming in ultimately has to progress to that professional license, and they will simply be the agent that is doing that.
Dr. Russell, can I ask, can the folks that need to get that certification, they could do that through LMU or another agency, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so they do not have to enroll in Carson Newman to get that certification.
And if you already have, an administrative degree, you can still enter the Aspiring Leader Program. You're a teacher out there, and I will be happy to do a presentation to share that kind of information, which I am certain would be helpful for your all's understanding. But you can already be through a program and enter this. Probably if you're in the middle of Lincoln Memorial's program, for example, you probably are not necessarily going to want to apply to the Aspiring Leader Program until you're through that. But this does allow us, if we identify someone that we want to help move into administration, it does allow us to seek that aspiring license for them and go ahead and start them into that program, and they would, at that point, have to begin taking, they would have to take the classes at Carson Newman. There are others that, in other districts that are using the aspiring license. It's not something that we have used before, except with the fellows through the Leadership Academy.
Okay, Mr. McMillan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Russell, who decides who goes into this? Is it a committee of our staff or one or two individuals, or what?
This program is, as I said, is a leadership development program for Knox County. So Knox County will make the decisions in terms of who goes in. And basically, the final call is to the superintendent.
Okay. Let me ask you something else. Since we're providing them with this, are there any stipulations as to once they complete it, assuming that they complete it, that they have to stay with Knox County for any specific period of time?
We have not built anything in like, for example, the Leadership Academy had, but the difference is, again, the costs. We are putting in a small amount to cover some of the instruction in the summer, but the difference is, instead of having $900,000 just out of, Knox, we're looking at far, far less. But if that is a desire of this board and the superintendent, then certainly that type of clause can be built into the process.
Okay, just from a personal standpoint, I would like to see something to provide an incentive that they stay, because, I agree with you, 900,000 versus 21,000, there's really no comparison there. But I think all of us are sick and tired of Knox County, and not just this program, but of Knox County training people only to see them as soon as they can exit go to another county where they can make more money. And, I don't know what it would be. I would think it would be a minimum of 3 years, maybe even more. I'm assuming that most of them would probably want to stay in Knox County if they were established.
Well, I will say that the part of the program, when you fully lay it out and look at it, actually covers about a 3-year period. So we will stay with them working in this program with the professional development plan, the new administrators academy, plus the aspiring leader program. It covers about 3 years.
Well, now, what I'm talking about is, and then we may be talking about the same thing, we may not. I'm talking about once they complete everything.
Yes.
And if they wanted to go to some other system, they would be free to go and take the whatever title they have earned with them. Okay. I think that from that point on, that they should agree. They don't have to accept this. Right. It's an optional thing. So I think they should if they accept it, it should be a minimum of 3 years from the time they attain the certification that they stay in Knox County, a minimum of that. And like I say, I would think most of them will stay longer because they're established and everything, but you never know.
We can include that.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll go to Ms. Owen, but I think we obviously need a work session on this, so we will schedule a work session so that we can make sure that we're all on the same page. Ms. Owen.
Okay, I just have a money question to make sure that I have it compared to other things. So we're looking at a little less than $2,000 per administrator that's in the program, right? You have about 12 normally. Is that correct?
We're hoping that with this program, we're hoping it will be 15 to 20. Okay. In the aspiring principal program, yes, we're 10 to 12. This class has 12 in it.
Okay, so we're actually talking about the second class, right?
That is correct.
Got it. So it's significantly less than $2,000, yes, which is significantly less than what we would have as an incentive for a person in a high needs area, right?
Yes.
Okay, so per class, we're looking at around $300 for those 4 classes per class. That's amazingly little. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Thank you, Dr. Russell. Okay, moving on to items 6 or 7, 8 or 9, 10 or 11, 12, 13, or 14. Okay, and then we have 2 board policies to rescind J440. Any comment or question on that? And then policy J194. Any question? Yes, Mr. Norman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had a bit of a discussion about this last time, sort of, I guess some language, I'm curious about a language issue, and what I'm visualizing is someone who intends to do physical harm to staff, teachers, anybody. If the intent is, and they have actionable intent, not they're just thinking about it, but they do something to illustrate that they intend harm, would zero tolerance be applied?
Mr. Law Director.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Norman. So zero tolerance under the law would only apply, in your example, Mr. Norman, if some type of bodily injury occurred.
Okay, so if they swing and miss, zero tolerance would not apply.
That is correct. However, I mean, under this board's disciplinary guidelines, that would be a significant offense, and a suspension, long-term suspension would result, but it would not be automatic zero tolerance. Zero tolerance is something that the state has decided to put out these very specific statutes on. So, yeah.
Okay, I guess I'm just serving this up as a warning that any type of action that intends to do harm to anyone in our system should be severely punished, if not zero tolerance. It should be considered a high crime and misdemeanor. No, it should be very serious. I don't know how to include that or to get across the concept that it doesn't just take physical harm to cause, some type of that type of adjudication of the issue. So, do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do, and the state legislature has decided to kind of pick and choose here. Another example I could give you is that, of course, in this policy it talks about possession of a bomb, and that is a zero tolerance offense. However, you could have a student that makes a credible bomb threat. That's not zero tolerance, but that is going to be a significant, serious offense and is going to result in some type of extended suspension. So.
Okay, Ms. Owen.
I was just going to note that I think repeated behaviors and behaviors that are severe that are not zero tolerance are covered in our misbehaviors and disciplinary options policies. So I think those are there, and they give administrators a lot of leeway in how to use those. So I think that can be covered there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? Okay, moving on to grants. We have A or B. Ms. Babb?
Could someone talk about A? When I went to the information about it, there really wasn't any information. It was kind of a spreadsheet with some numbers on it, so I didn't know what this was.
Okay. Mr. Myers or Dr. Reiswick?
Thank you, Ms. Horn. Thank you, Ms. Babb. This is actually a federal grant from Title 10 that we get based on our homeless students. So the overall purpose of the grant is to be able to provide stabilization to students who are homeless. So we'll use the majority of it for about 36,000, there's 63,000 total, so about 36,000 of that for transportation. So if they're in school X and then they are homeless, we can allow them, and maybe they've moved to a different place or they're in a homeless shelter. We're able to provide transportation back to the school that they were originally at, so that we try to leave some stability in their lives. There's also some additional tutoring we do for students to help that's included in that, some materials for that tutoring and some hygiene items, clothing, those sorts of things. And then we have a homeless liaison that works through those cases when a student says they're homeless to make, there's certain requirements by federal law that make you that to make sure. So those are the things that go into that grant that we use it to support.
Yeah, and I guess my question was, I mean, obviously it's very worthwhile, is it doesn't seem like it says that anywhere. It almost seems like there wasn't anything to this. That's why I was just wondering if there's I mean, when you look at or at least what we were said on the information, it literally is just lines of money. It doesn't anywhere explain what this is, which that just seemed a little odd to me. And I didn't know, I mean, you've signed it, so that's where I was just is there more to this somewhere? Like this just got detached from something else, or?
Mr. Duplin?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Ms. Babb. What I can tell you is what happens is that these are in a way renewable ongoing agreements with the state, and all of this is entered into the state's electronic system. So that's why it appears the way it appears on your agenda, and there's not really any type of written agreement, because the way the state looks at it is this is an extension. The board's an extension of the state anyway, so that's kind of the way they look at it. I mean, what you're approving is you're approving that this state money can come in for these particular
okay.
items.
I'm not used to seeing something with so little information. If that's just, I was I felt like something was missing, but okay.
Okay, Ms. Owen? No, okay, Ms. Christie?
I think maybe the information in the fiscal note might be, did you
No.
hit the
Maybe
fiscal note on it? Because I think there's more of a,
explanation there.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of, there's actually a lot of information there,
Okay.
just in a different format.
I think that might be the problem. I think I was looking,
You're correct, and I think Mr. Duple explained that well. The system where the budget's entered in is the process by which the state releases the money to us. So that was probably just a snapshot of that it had been released or was being released for us to accept. And then in the fiscal note was kind of the written description. What we'll do is they'll populate that budget in time as they do the spending items down to match what's in the fiscal note. But prior to approval, I think it was just left kind of as the generic budget.
sure, I think it makes more sense now that I look at the fiscal note part of it. Thank you.
Ms. Owen?
If anyone would like to look further, if we look at policy J140, homeless students, that explains quite a bit of the McKinney-Vento.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anything on B? Grant B. Okay, C, D, E or F. Okay, and then regular agenda items A, B, C, D, E, F. Yes, Ms. Satterfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as I was reading this agreement of understanding, I noticed that as we continue to build construction and swapping out the school, there's a part that allows the Sammy Hill to be used as recreational. And so I want to know what procedures do we have in place, or has a conversation been had to ensure that if we are opening the building up to the public, that Monday morning, bright early morning, that the school's ready for operation?
Mr. Oakes?
The intent is not to open the building up to the public. The intent is to have the playground areas and those parts of the campus available, which we've tried to do at different places around the community anyway. The use of the facility, we have a very robust facility use program already in place, and if community needs to use that facility, they can, and we'll schedule it appropriately, and then, depending on the status, there's facility use fees and custodial support and everything that has to go with that. Elements in this agreement are very similar to agreement we have in place at Christenberry Elementary School, where we work with the city and actually sort of share the rec center at Christenberry, and it's our gym in the daytime and it's their rec center at night.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up. So it's still the procedure aspect, not just the open door access?
It's not an open door.
Okay.
That's not anticipated in this, no ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on that one? Okay, and then G. Mr. Dupler, do we have an update on G?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the board can see, this item's been removed at the request of the county. Chris Caldwell had contacted me and asked to remove it, saying that it wasn't ready. So since Friday, what has happened is that there are ongoing negotiations going on with regard to the contract with TVA. In fact, Charlie Sturkey in our office received a completely new section, small section. I mean, it's a large contract, but a small section, completely new yesterday. So that's what I can report to the board at this time, is that it's not ready to go before this board this month, and I can't say exactly when it will be ready, because TVA is entering into these ongoing negotiations, basically with the goal that it will be as close as possible to something that this board and the commission might approve. So,
Thank you. Okay. Do we have anyone for public forum?
There's no one for public forum.
Thank you. And I wanted to make sure, just to point out to the board, item 7 on our agenda for October 16th is to approve the appointment of the Board of Education committees and roles for 2019-20. So if everyone would just make sure to review that and let Ms. Coatney know if you see any issues with that. But I think it is attached, so you can take a look at that and make sure that it is as you expected it to be. And now we'll move to board forum. Mr. Kelly? Ms. Satterfield?
Hopefully everyone saw this on the news, but I just also want to congratulate the 3 young ladies from Austin East who were admitted early decision into the University of Tennessee, and then also just shout out University of Tennessee for going above and beyond to make sure that they felt really special and welcome. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Owen? Mr. Norman?
I had asked Ms. Coatney to help me with some type of evaluation of our retreat. I thought it'd be a good idea to at least get some information back from each of us about what happened and the retreats going forward. And so I hope the board will be open to that, and I'd just like to discuss the retreat and see what the other board members think.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps we can do that on the 16th. We can just have a quick conversation about the retreat. Okay, Ms. Babb?
I would just like to reiterate what Superintendent Thomas said about Sequoia Elementary and complimenting them on their blue ribbon status. And then I also want to thank Stephanie Welch, who is leaving the Great Schools Partnership, for all of her service with the Great Schools Partnership over the last few years.
Ms. Bounds? Mr. McMillan? Ms. Christie? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?